Marcus Brown here with Chess Frog Omniversity, brought to you by Out of the Mud Incorporated, Out of the Mud C Corp, Out of the Mud a media company. Want to thank them for having me on again today. Our call-in number is 248-820-5053. You can hit us up online on Facebook also. Today's topic, we're going random. We're going rogue today. We're going to start off with some poetry and just hit up some current events. Name of the poem today is Do Urban Snailmen Croon? From suburb to city and back, bus driver, the stories you could tell. Your trip, your days, your life, your time at the crossroads of Shane and Mac. Bus driver of heaven and hell, can you tell me what's fair? Sharon, it's change for all you care. 9 to 5 in the morning and 11 to 7 before the moon. How do you spend your nights? Do you sleep? Do troglodytes with mobile caves weep? Do urban snailmen croon? Bus driver on the Purgatory Express. Each rider a story, an allegory to confess. Each stop a pickup or drop. You drive in two directions, but never north, east, south, or west. You survive the busy intersection with so many people's lives. Survive their words, that their tongues are knives digging deep into your soul. Next stop, bus driver. How can I get from here to there? Does your bus go up or downtown? How much change is fair? Bus driver, I said next stop. I think something's wrong with your bell. Where's a good place to shop? Let me off before you get to hell. What did you do to forever deserve this? Whose stop did you miss? What sin did you forget to confess? Were you asked and merely said yes? Do you deliver to any address? Do you go near the Acheron River? Does the door drive make you shiver? Do you break for God, man, and beast? Do you like going crosstown better than north, south, west, and east? Please tell us again, bus driver. Why don't you get a transfer to a line that's fine, that won't mess with your mind? A line where harsh words are never heard. To a line that only serves the suburbs. Why don't you get off this bus that's heaven sent and hell bent, or vice versa? This purgatory line, by all means, is worse. It's hell in the morning, leaving heaven in full glory. I've been driving this line for such a long time, I can't tell heaven from hell, blessing from a curse. I don't rule or serve, I just drive the lines and turn with the curves. All I can say is where my bus goes and not why. From heaven, uptown suburbs, points high, to hell, downtown city, stops low, and all the way back. All aboard the Purgatory Express, up and down, but never north, east, south, or west. Don't talk to the driver, the only survivor, crisscrosser of the have and lack, the snowman who croons, the troglodyte with a rolling home on his back, delivering the blessed and the vexed. And oh, yes, your stop is coming up next. Thank you, Do Urban Snailman Croon, circa 1990. Our topics today. There's a lot of stuff going on in this world that kind of make us want to become oblivious or blank out stuff. We've had an assassination in the last 6 months. We've had a change in who we thought might be running for president. We've had more police killing us, and we've had some court decisions made. Sometimes we have to acknowledge and recognize the greater world that we live in, but we also have to learn to appreciate the small world, the minute world, the world that we can control. We might feel powerless because technically our vote, and it's just going to tick off a lot of people, our vote counts when it comes to voting for the governor, the mayor, state representatives, different people on city council, but our votes don't count when it comes to voting for the president. There's something in place called the Electoral College. Electoral College. The Electoral College are the votes that get counted when they start talking about who is going to be our next president. This system was designed long ago and it's kind of archaic. And there have been at least 5 elections where the popular vote, that means the votes that you and I place, and the electoral vote didn't match up. One of the most recent ones was Hillary Clinton, who won the popular vote, versus Donald Trump, who won the electoral vote. We also had a situation where Al Gore won the popular vote, but George Bush Jr. won the electoral vote. The electoral vote is a vote that counts in the presidency. And I know that there are going to be people that are going to get upset with me because I'm trying to explain this, but your vote does not count when you vote for the president. It should. The system should be modified. It should have been changed years ago. With this new system of Facebook and phones and so forth, we could have an actual democracy where voting can be done directly. And let there be woe and hell brought to those who are trying to defy our voting system or try and still vote. We should make that into a straight up capital offense if somebody still votes or tries to usurp an election. That being said, do I want people not to go to the elections in November? Of course not. You need to still represent your vote. We still need to press the issue of getting rid of the Electoral College. If we wind up in another situation where the votes don't match, where the Electoral College vote and the public popular vote don't match, it'll press the issue more and further that we need to get rid of the Electoral College. That being a concern at the macro level, who's going to be our next president? Whoever is going to be our next president is going to have a lot of power and push and play. They just got rid of Roe versus Wade. I'm sorry, Roe versus Wade. They are planning on getting rid of the Department of Education. The Heritage Foundation has created a Project 2025, and one of the key points of that Project 2025 is to shrink government. Remember, conservatives don't like government in their business too much. A lot of people who think they are down with this don't realize that by shrinking government too much, you're getting rid of certain safety things, whether it be the EPA, the FDA, whether it be regulation over doctors or lawyers or regulation of the roads. When you start getting rid of government, you start getting rid of some social nets and certain things that protect us. Jimmy Carter created the Department of Education back in the late 70s. A lot of people were upset, but Jimmy Carter was of the point of saying, if we are a nation that believes in our children, then there should be a federal executive branch, cabinet level position that focuses on our children and education. If we don't focus on our children and education, what does it say about how we feel about the future? Do we need a Department of Education in order to do that? Well, it's kind of up in the air. If you look at what's really going on with education in this country, we're still segregated. Brown versus Board of Education said we're supposed to be desegregated right now, but schools are still segregated for the most part. Where even at lunchtime, even a school that's supposed to be integrated, you can still find kids all black table, all white table, and kids segregating themselves, even in schools that are supposed to be integrated. It's the nature of the world. It's the nature of our churches. It's the nature of our social settings. Some people can go to different churches. Most churches are either black or white or whatever ethnic group you belong to. More people feel comfortable being inside of a church amongst people that are similar to them. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't integrated churches, but you start looking at some of these big churches and you start getting the homogenized effect or the pasteurized effect where people are mostly of one background. Back to the College of Education or the Department of Education. Department of Education is supposed to make sure that children get a fair, free, and appropriate public education. Free and appropriate public education. The problem with that is what is appropriate? How do they define free? If they say free is our kids get to go to school with paint falling off the ceilings and bad water and old furniture and books that are 30 and 40 years old and outdated, then it's easy to say we're going to make sure they get a free education. That's the same thing that happened under Jim Crow, and it's the same thing that happens right now. You have some schools that are funded very well, where students have laptops, have access to the internet, have access to microscopes and cutting edges in technology. If they want to get online right now and see a picture of what Google Earth looks like or what the moon looks like, they can do it. But then you also have students who are going to schools that are not as well funded, where trying to get on the internet might be a hit or miss proposition or might not be a daily thing. You have schools where you have a whole bunch of kids huddled around one cathode ray. I did say cathode ray, huddled around one cathode ray tube in order to watch a program or to use use some type of programming that's supposed to educate them. Education is not fair in this country, and it should be one of the concerns that we all face and focus on. Even right here at the local level in Flint, you have disparity in education, and you have some questions that need to be asked. We're still looking for those results from the post poisoning, lead poisoning of the students here and the children here in Flint about what impact that has had on their behavior. The school and the Department of Health are supposed to be collecting data about whether there's been any major shift or change and behavior problems since the poisoning occurred. But you start asking board members and different people a question, they'll get back to you and never get back to you. I ask you out there to ask somebody at your school. Principal is not going to be able to do it. You got to call up superintendent's office. Start asking those people that want to be on the board of education these questions because somebody's not following up. Children got poisoned in this city, and somebody should be documenting what progress, what problems, and what issues are going on. Have you heard a report yet? And this should be free and public information, not something that we have to go search for that's hidden inside some file somewhere that shows that kids have gone dramatically up or down with their behavior. But that's another issue that we should have concern about. Talking about the macro, talking about the micro. We already said the Electoral College chooses the president. You still need to be worried about the macro. But if you can't control that macro, the big world, the giant world, control the micro. You stand on a square. That square you stand on, you as a human being should have control of. You live in a world, that household you live in, that family you live in, you have some control over, you have some power with. If we start talking about whether or not your children are going to this school or that school or what's going on in your neighborhood, as a man, you have to feel empowered. As a woman, you have to feel empowered about what's going on around you. If you don't like something going on around you, you need to call and change it. You need to make the change. If there's too much garbage in the street, make sure your garbage is picked up first before you start getting on anybody else. But then shame those people by picking up the garbage also. Be that good neighbor. If the lights are out on your block, keep calling and complaining to city council, to consumers energy, to the mayor's office about those lights getting fixed. If somebody's dumping and you turning a blind eye, when rats and roaches come out of that dump site and go to your house, who's to blame when you don't report them or turn them in? And it's not about being a snitch or being caught up in any madness like that. That whole snitch rule is created by people who are scared and have been snitching themselves. John Gotti snitched. Al Capone snitched. A lot of people working with the government during World War II in order to keep our docks safe. And no, we call them heroes now, but they were actually snitching and telling on people that were stealing stuff from the military. So this whole snitch thing is a myth that self procreates itself, and only the people at the bottom are the ones wind up serving time. It's hilarious. There was a gentleman who was high ranking in a group called Young Boys Incorporated. This man was in his 20s, high ranking, provided a lot of different things. First initial B. It turns out that a younger guy, 16-year-old, who does not have a background in doing anything, winds up doing the most time for Young Boys Incorporated because he didn't want to snitch. Now, apparently, his boss snitched because his boss was out of jail before him. But if anybody remembers Young Boys Incorporated or how the dope game ran back in the 80s, we know that a lot of people got out way before their time, and we still got brothers sitting in jail who are abiding by that quote unquote no snitch rule. You live your world and you live your way. But if you see people moving in certain ways, then you have to start using common sense. One of the biggest problems we have in this country is that people don't have a true definition of what freedom is. Freedom is not something that President Abraham Lincoln can hand to you and say, go ahead now, you're free. Freedom is not something that occurs every day. Freedom is having the power of knowledge and the power of common sense to move in certain ways, to step out of the paradigm, to say, I don't agree with what's going on here. True freedom, some people will never have because they are uncomfortable with stepping out of the paradigm. They are uncomfortable with making waves. They rather just get along and not get in trouble. True freedom is what's owned by those people that can lead, those people that can think outside the box, those people that can read between lines. Oh, the man said we can't park here, but this is an emergency. I'm parking here. And I'll justify it or have to explain it later. Or they say we can't do this, we can't do that. Sometimes you got to think for yourself and say, how am I going to protect my family? How am I going to do certain things? Less than 3 years ago, we had something called COVID that struck this nation. And what lesson did we take from it? We took no lesson from it because you got people right now who got hit with COVID. We all got hit with COVID, and they weren't ready. Did they have batteries at their house? Did they have extra toilet paper at their house? Did they have 2 weeks of food at their house? Did they have something for a plan for the kids at their house? Nothing. And we are back to square zero because you have people that are back in that same situation. If they shut down things tomorrow and said, oh, we're dealing with COVID number 5 or COVID 2.0, or we're dealing with a new bacteria or a virus, these people would be in the same situation. And we already saw what happened. Resources inside the city were gone first. You went to the dollar stores, you went to the grocery stores, and toilet paper was bought out. But they still had some in the suburbs at Walmart. But you know what? Some of us plan and some of us fail to plan. If you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. What will you do if COVID reemerges? What will you do if person A gets elected? What will you do if person B gets elected? Part of being free is having the responsibility to go along with it, that you are free to lead yourself and guide yourself in some healthy way that will not negatively impact others. A lot of people are happy being sheep or sheeple and following. Are you one of those people? Do you take comfort in being under the guidance of a benevolent dictator or somebody who's going to tell you how to spend your money or tell you how to raise your children? I don't consider that freedom, but quite a few of us do. We let the church man tell us what to do with our money. We let the church man tell us how to raise our children. We might not even agree with them, but we still go along with things that we don't agree with. One of the biggest things that we need to change in this country, in this world, is having everyone actually consider the true definition of freedom. What is freedom in a state where when we're suffering from COVID? What is freedom in a state where the electoral college actually votes for the president? What is freedom when you don't have money? What is freedom when you do have money? We need to look at this and you need to ask yourself, are you free? What makes you free? What plans and thoughts do you have that are actually independent, new, and real towards freedom? Are you just going to work every day like some puppet? Or are you really free where you can decide the course of your life? Is the course of your life to go to school for 12 years, get a job for another 40 years, and die serving the system? Or is the course of your life to have some type of individual plan for yourself? By the time I'm 50, I want to own this house or that house, and I want to have my children in college or this, that, and the other thing. There are those who plan and those who get planned for. When we start asking what freedom is, there are some prisoners out there being held in jail that have more freedom of mind, freedom of thought, freedom of consciousness and intelligence that makes them freer than somebody who's living out on the streets right now. When you are sheep and you just follow along, you lose that freedom. When you decide to think for yourself, and thinking for yourself might not be for everybody. I've had to come to grips with that, even as an educator. Not everybody's going to be a leader. Not everybody's going to understand what we're talking about here when we start talking about stepping out of a paradigm, stepping out of what you've been told to do in order to remain safe, in order to remain reputable, in order to save and be conservative. You have to dream beyond that, or you have to have want of your children to dream beyond that. Do you want your children to be sheep like you are, following along, went to school for 12 years, worked for 40, and then died shortly after I retired? Yeah, that is not quote unquote the American dream, and that is not true freedom. You might think you're free because you are moving back and forth, but if you never move outside the box, how do you know you're free? There are people in this town who have never left the city or the state before. There are people in this town who have never experienced something outside of their normal paradigm. We have to learn how to explore in order to teach our children to explore. We need to take our kids somewhere. If you got families in some other state, take your child to go visit another state. Let them see how other people live. If you ever get a chance to visit another country, no matter who you are, make sure that you get a chance to visit another country so you can get empathy, sympathy, understanding of how other people live and how they view us. A lot of people don't like Americans these days. There was a concept of the ugly American that was developed back in the 50s and 60s. Before then, everyone loved Americans because we brought freedom and literacy and jobs and this, that, and the other thing. But soon after that, we became just another colonial power, another representation of the West. We sent tourists here, there, and everywhere else that did not respect other people's cultures. And by doing that, we earned a little bit of hostility. We're not as well loved as we used to be, even though we send weapons to help fight wars, even though we have pulled some strings to have certain leaders removed. We're not as popular because they see us as a bully now and not the big brother. Ironically, it's scary when you consider what's going on in this country. When people talk about fake news, it's scary when you see what's happening in this country and you've already seen the blueprint. If you've read a book called 1984, you know the blueprint for changing speech and for getting people to get in line with each other. If you read Animal Farm, if you've read Brave New World, if you've read books by Jonathan Kozol that talks about education, Savage Inequalities, if you've read Paulo Freire, The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, then you know that something is wrong with the system that we're currently existing in. And it takes creative thinkers, independent thinkers to start wanting to move forward. I would love it if I can get a call or a comment from Facebook. Give us a call at 248 820 5053. We're talking about the meaning of freedom. We're talking about the presidential election. We're talking about education. All these things link together. Hit us up. Am I talking like a kook or am I talking like I got sense? If you don't plan, you plan to fail. Think outside the box. Read between the lines. Do I have a caller out there? 248 820 5053. Also looking for Facebook contact. We are in Out of the Mud Incorporated, Out of the Mud C Corp, Out of the Mud, a media company. Which one is the best one, good sir? Just think Out of the Mud. And if you type it on YouTube, this company should pop up or some of their videos should pop up. All right. I'm going to give this another 5 minutes. Hopefully, we can get a call in. And then we're going to read a poem and then we're going to sign off. But it's just food for thought. Got a call coming in? Caller, what is your name?
My name is John.
How you doing there, John? What do you think about what we've been talking about today?
Well, it's good stuff. I don't think you sound like a kook or anything like that, but the way that I think and operate is a little unorthodox, and I really don't believe in planning like the way you say planning to do stuff. But I done came a long way in my life with the way that I operate, so it was kind of like a little rebuttal on that.
Well, do you like people to plan for you?
No, I plan for myself, but I don't plan in the terms of. I'll put it like this: I don't put stuff down on paper. I don't have a vision board. I mentally think about what I want to do, and I wake up every day and I just do it. But I already know where I'm going. I look ahead because I'm futuristic, but I just don't sit there and write it down and just think out a whole plan. Like, okay, I'm
Well,
gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. This is a level. This is a short term. This is a long term goal. I don't do that.
it's almost
But
like
I done got far in life doing it the way I do it. So
mhm.
I don't believe that's for everyone.
Well, there's a scaffolding that takes place. Before you can build a house, you got to have a foundation, right?
Right.
You have a life. You have a God given life that God gave you to do whatever you want to with positive, negative, whatever. I think that you
Right.
know that if you don't get up in the morning and have a plan for the day, somebody else will make a plan for you just for that day. Whether it
Yeah,
be
correct.
whether it be your mama, the police, or somebody else, if you don't have a plan, somebody's gonna make a plan for you, or you're just gonna sit there and waste.
Correct.
So I'm not talking about you have to have a super duper down to the moment plan for 50 years from now. But I know 50 years from now, you want to be sitting inside of a comfortable house and have your bills paid and everything else like that.
Yes.
That's all
That's
I'm
correct.
saying. A lot of people don't, it's scary. A lot of people just move forward day by day inside little circles and don't think about what it's going to be like 30 years from now or what it's going to be like 5 years from now. And it's something so simple that I used to teach, and I always tell my students, if you don't make a plan for yourself, somebody else will make a plan for you. And I'm not trying, send people to college or do this, that, other thing, because different strokes for different folks, different roads, you know, send you in different ways. The military will work for some people, college will work for some people, trade school will work for others. Sometimes them streets call your name and it be calling the right way, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand.
So I agree with you and I appreciate you calling in, but I'm trying to shake and wake up because I'm quite sure you got brothers and sisters out there or people in your world. You just sit there and sometimes just look at them and like, how did they get this far without without falling off a cliff? And sometimes
Right.
it's just by sheer luck that some people are still moving out there.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you calling in, brother. I appreciate the support.
All right, keep it up, Brown, man. We paying attention. We watching. We like what you're doing. So keep it coming.
All right, bet, man. All right, bet. Let other people know. We're gonna try and see if we can get a system where we can start recycling these shows and playing them at different times. But
Okay,
appreciate your
man.
call in. Holler back at you soon, bro.
All right.
Thank you. Phone number 248-820-5053. We're looking for callers. We're looking for people to hit us up on Facebook. What do you think about the future? Who's going to be our next president? What is education going to look like in 5 or 10 years? Where are you going tomorrow, next year, 5 years from now? Do you have to have a plan, or can you just hope things fall the right way? Those are the questions we're asking. That's the topic we're hitting up. We're going to give it another 5 minutes before we read some more poetry and get up out of here for today. Uh, I appreciate Out of the Mud Productions for sponsoring this show and supporting and producing this show. We have Mr. Grundy in the house, as usual, holding down the buttons and twisting knobs over there. He's our King Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein over there making the machines work. But hit us up. Let us know what you think. If you don't hit us up, I'm gonna hit you back with some ugly poetry. All right, there. Do we have any contacts on Facebook? No contacts on Facebook. Oh lordy. Well, let's end the show with a poem that I wanted to read a few weeks ago. We made mention of it. The name of this poem is not an original, but the name of this poem is called Maggot Brain. And some of you guys out there know exactly what maggot brain is. And if you don't know, you soon will. As soon as I can scroll my fingers faster. Maggot Brain, originally written by George Clinton. This is an amalgamated version that includes versions from the early 70s all the way through the 80s. Mother Earth is pregnant for the third time, for we have knocked her up. I have tasted the maggots in the mind of the universe, and I was not offended, for I knew I had to rise above it all or drown in my own. Maggot brain is a state of mind, and then the condition and position of your. Free your mind, and your will follow. We are just a biological speculation sitting here vibrating, and we don't know what we're vibrating about. And the animal instinct in me makes me want to defend me, makes me want to live when it's time to die. Do y'all see my point? I don't mean to come on strong, but I am concerned. I believe in God, and I know that law and order must prevail. But if and when the laws of man are not just, equal, and fair, then the laws of nature will come and do her thing. She does not think. She works by instinct. Survival is her thing. Do y'all see my point? Do y'all see my point? Think. It ain't illegal yet. Think. It ain't illegal yet. Think. It ain't illegal yet. Think. A luscious, she is true, but it's not nice to fool with Mother Nature. The proud mother of God, like all hoes, is jealous of her own shadow. Who is this, excuse me, the proud mother of God, like all hoes, is jealous of her own shadow. So who is this young Vic Tanny bitch who would sacrifice the great grandsons and daughters of her jealous mother by sucking their brain until their ability to think was amputated, by pimping their instincts until they were fat, horny, and strung out, by pimping their instincts until they were fat, horny, and strung out, in her neurotic attempt to be queen of the universe. Who is this? America eats its young, and we are all part of America. This world is a hell of a heaven that we live in, but it's all we've got. If you will suck my soul, I will lick your funky emotions. All that is good is nasty. Ain't nothing good unless you play with it. Play with the maggot. Thank you again for listening to Omniversity, Chess Frog Omniversity today. Thank you again, Out of the Mud Productions. Look forward to talking to you guys again next week. If you have ideas or suggestions for shows, please hit us up on Facebook or give us a call at 248-820-5053. This is Marcus Brown with producer extraordinaire, Dr. Frankenstein Grundy, in the place to be.